Spence. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
We are going another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Appreciate everyone for joining in as always. A lot of stuff to talk about today. Will is joining us as always on Tuesdays. I can talk. Looking forward a lot to next week. Tony and I are getting a lot more draft stuff, so that'll be fun. So a lot going on here, a lot of fun. Let's get started. So Chris Finch, the Timberwolves head coach, last night basically came out and said, look, man, the Thunder foul a lot. You can't touch SGA. The way that you have to play the Thunder is just basically, he called it unfair. They're allowed to be extra physical, extra aggressive, and they don't call fouls. And when it comes to guarding SGA, it feels like you pretty much have to be hands off or they call fouls for him. Now, there's arguments for this and against this, which is what I don't really want to get into right now. Thunder fans will sit there and tell you, hey, they shoot the second lowest free throws per team, but they get fouled top five most. And then SGA, who is the people that are against this, SGA is the second most. So there's arguments you can make on both sides statistically, right? What I actually think is a bigger issue is the part that Chris Finch did discuss, which is it's not so much that if your favorite player didn't get a lot of free throws, you would complain. Like Zion doesn't get a lot of free throws considering the physicality amount he drives. Jokic doesn't shoot a lot of free throws, him being a big man. Steph's never really had a bunch of free throws throughout his career, and I understand some of that is the fact that he's more of a three-point shooter. Fine. But it is truly frustrating when you have someone like Lou Dort on that team, the Williams, and they are just beyond extra aggressive. Everybody knows my allegiance. I'm a Pelicans fan, and when they played last year in the first round, it was really frustrating to hear commentators who, I know there's certain rules of things they're allowed to say, things they're not allowed to say. They can't be, it can't come off as bias or overtly shaming the refs. But it was frustrating to hear, hey, the Thunder are just playing this great defense on Brandon Ingram. Look at how they're containing him. Look at the torture chamber. And I'm like, and yet SGA, you just you hip check him a little bit or you just get in front of him, 2 free throws. That's where fans actually get frustrated. When the disparity is so huge, and this gets into fans' minds, this has to get into players' minds, it's just human nature. If I'm guarding you, and I'm only allowed to play a certain level of physicality, I'm only allowed to play a certain level of aggressive, because the refs will literally put the game in their hands and say, hey, you can do this or you can't, that's a problem. Again, SJ is a great player. He's probably going to win MVP. They're obviously a very young team, but it just feels, that's the other thing too, I think, with them being so young, is it almost feels like they skipped a step. You're supposed to go through, we understand when stars get calls. No one's really going to be that shocked if, they've missed calls on LeBron, but LeBron's also gotten a bunch of calls. They miss calls on Giannis, but Giannis gets a bunch of calls. Jokic, same vein. Like, we understand when superstars get these kind of calls. But it almost feels like, because SGA, we've all just deemed, okay, well, he's a superstar, even though he hasn't accomplished as much as some of the other superstars. This whole team gets a pass for how physical they're allowed to play. What can they get away with? And that almost feels unearned, because most of the time, young teams, it's all throughout NBA history, young teams normally get screwed on foul calls because they don't have the benefit of the whistle. They don't have the benefit of this experience, we just trust what they're doing because they're a veteran team. They've been here before. This almost feels like OKC has just outright missed a step. Like, where is their bad whistle in the playoffs? Where is their, even last year against the Mavericks, Luka just kind of came in and he was killing them. Just off the strength of shooting, jump shots, making shots, shot creation. It wasn't this, heavily disputed whistle. Again, James Harden, and we'll get to see how this plays out with them now confirmed, like they are the number one seed. They are the best team in the West. We will see how this whistle plays out in the playoffs. But if SGA gets this same kind of whistle, how do you tell someone like James Harden, who this play style truly originates from him, and he could tell you, and we've all seen, he's been screwed in the playoffs because of lack of a whistle or change of a whistle, or that dynamic between the refs and the players letting them play the game changes in the postseason. Again, it just feels unearned. It's not that we're upset SGA gets to the line. Yeah, some people are going to be upset that he gets to the line. But the reality is, what's more upsetting is it feels like you have Lou Dort and the Williams, and they're tackling people, and that doesn't get called. They're praised and credited for being great defenders and such a physical team and such a tough team. But it just feels unearned because you can't do, Antonio Daniels always talks about this, match their intensity. He always talks about this during games. Match the other team's intensity, force the refs to do something. And what it really feels like is you're forcing the refs to do something, but they're only doing something for one side. Again, we just came off an NFL season where one of the biggest talking points for a two-time Super Bowl champion, a team that was the current dynasty of its league, and we were having ref discussions at the Super Bowl? For all the good things the NBA has going for it, and they do have some good things going for it from a talent perspective, from media perspective, just signed this huge $70 billion plus contract. You don't want that. And you don't want this, by the way, if you're the NBA, you don't want this on what is clearly one of your best teams and best position teams, because the Thunder aren't just great now. The Thunder are going to be great for years to come. The Thunder actually already have to start looking at, oh shit, how are we going to do this? Because our roster is going to get real expensive real fast. We have too many great players. They're young, and Chet Holmgren is going to be huge, not just because of his talent and his play, but just because of his contract. So SGA, you're already paying. The Williams you're going to have to pay. Lou Dort, you're going to have to give some kind of money for keeping him. And then you've got Caruso, and then Chet Holmgren will be interferes. So they already know coming down the line, this is going to be a very, very expensive team. And you don't want a team like that is going to be primed to be one of the best teams in your league. That's going to be primed to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference, one of the most exciting teams. We should be celebrating what this team is doing. And yet you have other coaches. And Chris Finch knows he's going to get fined. And some of this is a little bit of psychological warfare of, this happened with Harden. This has happened with other guys who we feel play this style. Luka gets sometimes where coaches will say, or general managers will say, or someone from the team will come out and say, hey, you know what? They just get a bullshit call. They just get bullshit whistles. And some of that is to get in the ref's mind. You could argue this happened a little bit in the NFL again. The Chiefs were talked all week leading up to the Super Bowl was, what about the refs? What about the refs? Ref question, ref question, ref question. And that turned into potentially refs swallowing some whistles that they might not have in the regular season or the playoffs. So some of this is psychological warfare. Some of this I also just truly believe it'd be one thing if it was just SGA getting to the line, but it feels like the style in which they play, it is impossible to flip that on them, which already makes the game feel like you're down 10, down 15 because of that disparity of how they're allowed to play defense versus how you're allowed to play defense. Moving on from that, everybody loves talking about nostalgia. Nostalgia is a real thing. I'm a very big victim of it. I love a bunch of things that I knew I loved when I was a kid or when I was younger, and I still love them, and it's really cool to go sit there and rewatch and re-enjoy some of these things. I'm a huge nostalgia victim. I'll be straight up with that. Let's get that out the way. Channing Frye on his podcast came out and said, you know what? Nostalgia is killing the NBA because these guys are not even getting compared to their eras. They are getting compared to guys who played 30, 40 years ago. And he went down the list and did the normal examples that we all know, LeBron to Mike, Steph and KD in their top 10, top 15 player rankings. But he said nostalgia is what's really killing the league. And I think nostalgia has just officially become a buzzword for the NBA specifically. Look, I'm not going to act like I'm not influenced by the brand of basketball that I watched growing up. That was Kobe, young LeBron, Spurs, Dirk, there's the Phoenix Suns, 7 second or less. I'm not going to act like that doesn't impact the way that I watch the game of basketball. It doesn't impact the way that I enjoyed the game of basketball. But nostalgia has a line. It's not this all-encompassing, I can blame everything because nostalgia, nor is it this all-encompassing, I can love all of this because nostalgia. I'll use an example. When the first iteration of the Warriors, when they got great, young Steph, Clay, Draymond, when they first got to this level of they were contending for championships, winning titles, going back-to-back with LeBron, they were an evolution of a style of basketball that we had seen. They were essentially what the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich had been doing for years, decades at that point, a decade plus. They took that, added some tweaks, made a few adjustments, and had the 2 greatest shooters ever. But I didn't need nostalgia to appreciate what the Warriors did. I could just see the same way we all fell in love with Kobe Bryant's game, which was a add-on from Michael Jordan's game, just a couple tweaks, a couple edits, a couple doing a few things differently. We got to appreciate, if you were a real fan of basketball, what that looked like with the Warriors. So because I knew of how the Spurs played basketball, and I got to see it evolve and grow into this really dynamic offense with the Warriors, I didn't need nostalgia for that. I had appreciation because I knew my history. In that same regard, I have less appreciation when I see some of these teams and all of their offense is free throw line up. It's let me set a half-ass screen, pick, pop, boom, catch, shoot, and that's their offense. And that happens a lot. That's not nostalgia. That's not old people or boomers ruining what you love. That is simply just not an appealing brand of basketball. I heard Bomani Jones say this. We probably don't give enough credit to the styles of play that currently exist in the NBA. I'd give you that. That's valid. But what he said is, we also, though, don't have as many styles of players. You don't have, who is a true slasher in today's NBA? I would have told you coming into the league, Anthony Edwards was a perfect example of a slash player. And even now he's on the ball more, he's taking some more of the point guard duties, but he shoots way more threes now. And I'm not saying shooting threes is bad, and I'm not going to sit there and tell you that guys missing twos is more entertaining than guys missing threes. I just want to see some offense, some motion, not just some possessions are literally dribble the ball up court, and this happens consecutively. This isn't just like 1 or 2. This is like consecutive 3, 4, 5 possessions in a row. Some guys dribble the ball up court, pass it to someone at the three-point line, boom, they take a shot. And that's offense. And while that's always slower parts of offense have always existed in the first quarter of games, fill out, see what they're trying to do. I'll go to the era of basketball I grew up on. The Nuggets were a fast-paced team, but you missed 2 or 3 shots in a row, they would slow it down, half-court offense, get the ball to Carmelo Anthony, let him go to work. The Mavericks, they could play with pace. You miss a few shots in a row, you get the ball to Dirk Nowitzki, high post area, let him go to work. That's not nostalgia killing the sport. That's not nostalgia ruining the experience. There's a line. Yes, are there some people who just nostalgia bomb and nostalgia watch stuff and complain about everything that comes new? Of course. You know what you do with those people? You ignore them. You just ignore them. You all have that one aunt, that one uncle in the family who just talks about back in my day, this is better, that was better. Cool. You're right, bro. It was better back in your day. But for the average fan, the average experience, nostalgia's not making or breaking this. Stop using it as some kind of excuse. Stop using it as some kind of all-encompassing word. Some things are better. Some things are worse. There's going to need to be some tweaking that goes on with the rules because the reality is the game has probably been so solved that, guys only need to do a couple of things to be productive players. Guys only need to do a couple of things to be good NBA players. If you can play defense, you can sit in the corner, shoot a 3-point shot when it's passed to you, That's probably all you're working on. That's probably all you're doing. Again, it's not nostalgia. That's not old people ruining the game you love. Think. That's all I got to do, guys. Just think a little bit. A lot more to discuss when we come back. Luka is playing against the Mavericks for the first time since being traded tonight. Some thoughts on that. Obviously, we got to go over stuff that's not so serious, as well as maybe the most pro-ready prospect because he's dealt with the most shit. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for joining it as always. So, again, a lot of stuff to talk about today. A lot of stuff to talk about these next couple of weeks. I know it's kind of the downtime in sports just due to the Super Bowl ends, and then a lot of people took last week off, myself included, just because there's not a lot of sports to talk about. But there's a lot more stuff that starts to ramp up as we get closer. So, again, fun days. Sometimes it helps to go through crap. and I'm not trying to sound like a 50-year-old or sound like someone, again, someone's crazy uncle, but sometimes it truly does help to go through crap. And that's because when you go through crap, it actually lets you know how you'd react. We all know how we say we'd react, but most people don't actually react that way when they're going through stuff. It could be a tough financial time. It could be a tough time in your family. It could be a tough time with relationships. But the reality of actually going through something, handling it, dealing with it, experiencing it, that's a crucial skill that a lot of people don't have. I haven't been perfect through this throughout my life. I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. But actually going through it tells you a lot about yourself. So out of the NFL draft, and Tony, you're going to get into this more next week, when it comes down to Shadeur Sanders and Cam Ward are the top two quarterbacks. Now, Mel Kiper just put out his mock draft, and he has Shadeur going 7. Now, and he gets to the Jets. And now, I'm not as on the Jets roster as a lot of other people, but I will say this. If I was going to give a resounding why I think Shadeur should go higher than Cam Ward is look at who he's actually played with. Look at the surrounding talent at Colorado these last years. I know Colorado's been this great story and they've overachieved, and because of that, we look past some of the deficiencies that are still there. One of the most sacked quarterbacks in college football, and no running game essentially whatsoever. Guess what that's going to feel like? Year 1 in the NFL, being a top 5 to top 10 pick. You're not going to have a great running game in most scenarios. You're not going to have a great defense, which Colorado did not have a great defense either. You're not there's a reason why you're going that high, and that is because as a quarterback, we preface and we put so much emphasis on what your selection is. And this is why quarterbacks continuously are going to go 1 in the draft, 2 in the draft, because you can cover up more flaws than other guys. This is why it's tough and harder for LSU, Ohio State, Georgia, these guys to have as quick and instant success and even long-term success in most instances in the NFL. Because the reality is, these guys, they have 5-star offensive linemen everywhere. They have 5-star wide receivers everywhere. They got it made. They have it made. And because they have it made, when you finally start going through crap, when you finally start experiencing, okay, this is what it's like when I'm under pressure every other play. Or this is you finally experience what it's like when all my receivers are dropping passes, or when receivers aren't wide open, or I don't have the best talent on defense and offense. Look at the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Lamar Jackson went to Louisville. It's a basketball school. Look at Patrick Mahomes, went to Texas Tech. Yes, exciting offenses, but not exactly a football powerhouse and bad defenses. Josh Allen went to Wyoming. The only real exception is Joe Burrow, and he went to LSU, obviously. But Joe was a transfer, so he'd already gone through crap previously. And also, Joe got hurt early in his rookie season, so he got Jamar Chase. They were essentially rookies together. I know they're actually a year apart, but he essentially got Jamar as a rookie, both of them as rookies, because he got hurt early in that first season. So he got Jamar Chase. The Bengals ended up having T. Higgins. The Bengals ended up having Trey Hendrickson. They had other guys who, while they weren't top to bottom like LSU, they had some real high-end guys. The safety who I'm blanking on now just went to Atlanta, Jesse Bates. There you go. They had pieces, and when Joe started to evolve, he's really the only guy, again, played on maybe the most talented and best college football team of all time, and then went to the Bengals. And that adjustment, I would have said back then, that would have been hard. And it was, so much so that he got knocked out, injured, missed the rest of the year, came back, had Jamar Chase. So, it's just, again, you're going to go through crap at some point in your life. That's just the reality of it. You are going to go through some shit. You are going to have hard situations. You are going to be uncomfortable. Life is not always going to be this cozy thing. So because of that, if you're Shadeur Sanders, haven't had a great running game, or really any running game, haven't had great defenses. I know you had Travis Hunter on defense, but one guy doesn't make a great defense. And offensive line, while it was better, still not great. He is arguably the most equipped to go day one early in the NFL draft because he's already had to deal with all this crap. And not saying Cam Ward hasn't had struggles or any of these guys aren't going to be great. I'm not here to tell you who's going to be a hit, who's not going to be a hit. But you're going to go through crap in life, and you're going to go through crap in sports. And being able to rebound from that, being able to live through that while you're going through the crap, while the crap just keeps getting piled on and on and on, that's huge. That is fucking huge. So, again, if I had to say, guy, and I'll get into more official rankings, and Tony and I are putting out mocks next week, and gonna be going over a lot more of that stuff, which will be fun. That is where, that's where this is at right now. With, again, pick one guy, just early hunch, gut feeling. You go. Excuse me. Yeah, gut feeling, hunch. Take Shadeur. He's been through crap. So, as we always do, I can't talk today. Not serious. Couple things, just quick hit notes that I want to get through, but not very serious. This is something Will actually brought up, and I don't believe this is serious. It's okay to be a role player. Like, it is. And there's some conversation, Austin Reeves, I know some of this is the Laker effect, some of this is LeBron effect. There's people who are having real conversations about Austin Reeves versus Bradley Beal. And I don't understand this for the life of me. Austin Reeves is a good role player. I think if he's a third option on your team, fourth option on your team, cool. Bradley Beal was averaging 30 points a game as a lead guard. I understand the Wizards weren't great, but he was averaging 30 points a game as a lead guard. Bradley Beal could do what Austin Reeves does. Austin Reeves could not do what Bradley Beal does. And I understand it is because of the situation and how bad Phoenix has played this year, we don't really want to put him in that conversation. We don't really want to elevate, or we don't really want to give Bradley Beal that much credit because it's been a down year and a half for him. But the idea that even if you were the Lakers secretly, you would take Beal over Austin Reeves. Don't get it twisted. Another not serious thing, let's stop overvaluing the Lakers just because of the Lakers. And I get it, this is impossible. I am fighting a losing battle. I am very well aware. But in the NBA.com power rankings, the Lakers soared to number 4. Only teams above them, Boston, OKC, and Cleveland. And 5th was the Nuggets. And I know they just beat the Nuggets for the first time in forever, and now the Lakers fans feel like they're winning the title, and everybody's going to start signing back in LA again. The Lakers are good. 1,000%. You can't deny that. LeBron's still great at 40, but the caveat is he's 40, and we know endurance, and this is natural. His endurance is not what it used to be. He can't elevate the same way he used to elevate in terms of play style, not just jumping. Luka is, while he's on a revenge tour, and we'll get into that a little bit later, Luka Doncic does not solve what the Lakers' actual problem is, which is even when they had Anthony Davis, they were not a good defensive team. And Anthony Davis is arguably the best defensive player in basketball. Yes, do they have a much better shooter's chance now because LeBron and Luka in a close game, that's going to be scary, and they're going to be able to put up points 1,000%. They're not better than Denver. That's really my biggest gripe here. They're not better than Denver. I don't think they really I'm not putting them in that top 4, top 5 true championship contender bubble. Luka is not that to them the way I think a lot of media people and NBA media people are making it out to be. So, again, I don't think this is a serious take to say, yeah, they're the 4th best team in basketball now just with the addition of Luka Doncic. I think they're still, honestly, once he's back healthy, I don't even know if they're better than the Mavericks. Like, that's the kind of overall talent, top to bottom, which you have to consider when you have these situations. I don't think they're better than the Mavericks. If AD comes back healthy. Obviously, health is going to be a big concern. That's always going to be a big concern with AD. But if AD comes back, I'm not sure they're better than the Mavericks. So, story number 3 here for not serious. Excuse me. we have got Jason Tatum is a great player. And I used this yesterday when I did hard left, hard right. I said I was outright wrong on the Celtics. I was wrong on the projection that I had him and Brown earlier in their career. I always thought they were really good. Jason Tatum's not on social media. Jason Tatum doesn't do a lot of, when it's not the actual NBA season and when he doesn't have a microphone in front of him, he doesn't do a lot of complaining. But when there is a microphone in front of him, I do think there is some complaining here. Look, Jason Tatum has the richest contract in NBA history, seems to have a pretty good social life. He has an NBA championship. He has a gold medal. And even though I might feel like, yeah, he is still slightly disrespected, I think this idea that he's like, well, yeah, just put anyone else in my shoes and you just see if they had my resume, they would be beloved. The reality is, to Tatum, I'm not even trying to hit on him. Not everybody is a high end or face of the league type guy. Kevin Durant has been one of the best scorers of all time, one of the greatest players of all time. He does not have a personality that would make you go, oh yeah, he's one of the faces of the league. He's one of those guys. He's just a great scorer. He's great at his job. Hell, Anthony Edwards just came out last week and said, I just want to kill dudes and go home. Like, I just want to be great at my job. I don't want to be the face of the league. I don't want to be one of those people look up to, et cetera, et cetera. So it's okay if you're not thought of in the same light because you don't have the same natural star power as some of these other guys. Again, Ja previous to the gun stuff, Anthony Edwards, what he has right now. Again, I talked about Zion yesterday. Sure, you don't have that star power, but Jokic doesn't even have that star power. But guess who doesn't care? Jokic. He's got a title. He's got multiple MVPs. His team is winning games. Like, that's fine. He doesn't need to be a face of the league type guy because he doesn't have a face of the league type personality. So, Jason Tatum, don't worry. You're fine. You're in a great spot. If anything, my personality, I'd rather be you than most of the other superstars in this league because you do get to fly somewhat under the radar despite your clear resume being that of a future first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best players in the league. You're a champion, a gold medalist. Just enjoy it, dude. It's okay. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back again. So tonight, here in a couple hours, it is Luka's revenge game against the Dallas Mavericks. First time he's even playing them since being traded. And there's a whole bunch of speculation about what's going to go on. I think that if you are Luka Doncic, this is not a prediction, but this should be the goal. Considering the way that you were traded, considering how you were spoken of after you were traded, this should be your let me go prove I'm that guy. Let me go prove I have the killer instinct. Let me go prove I can be the everything they ripped you for saying you weren't, saying you're out of shape, saying you weren't committed, this, that, and the third. This is when you go do it. This is when if there was ever a quarter to bet on, and I don't recommend any sports gambling, but if there was ever a quarter to bet on for Luka having 20-plus points, it would be the first quarter tonight against the Mavericks. He is going to want to show them. Remember the Kobe amnesty game where Mark Cuban had tweeted something about, the Lakers roster getting expensive and there was potential that they would still have to amnesty Kobe, and Kobe dropped, I think it was like 40-plus, and Kobe tweeted afterwards, amnesty that. This is where you prove, if you are Luka Doncic, this is where you prove I am everything they said I wasn't. I am going to show every single person on national TV that this team was wrong about me, that they don't truly understand me, that they undervalued me, that I'm going to be everything they said I could not be. I am taking it personal, and I'm trying to drop 50 on their head, and I'm trying to come out in the first quarter, and I am trying to be as effective as possible. Like, I'm trying to go all the way. I am trying to do as much as I can. 40, 50-point, triple-double, do everything, look like I'm in great shape, even play some defense if you're really feeling spicy, Luka. Like, maybe, just maybe, even play some defense. Like, go be the player that most people think you are, but the Mavericks clearly said you can't be or won't be. So, again, and I think this is going to be, I think they're going to start the game off. The ball's going to be in Luka. I know there's already conversations, and I agree with them for the most part. The ball should already be in Luka's hands for the most part. Like, he should be the guy who is starting the offense, initiating the offense. Nothing against LeBron, but it's a time or a sign of the times. The 25, 26-year-old, he's maybe 26 in 2 days, he should be your main offense starter, not the almost 40-year-old. So, Luka, this is your time. You want to go out there. You want to be aggressive. You want to go set the tone, put up 20 in the first half or 20 in the first quarter. Go get yourself a 30, 40, 50-point triple-double. Play aggressive on defense. Just be all the things that they said. Make this your amnesty game. Everything they said you could not be, go do it. Go prove them. Show them why they were wrong. Show why you deserve to be a Supermax guy. Everything they said about you, go prove it. This is how you make stories. This is how you make legacies. These are the kind of games. I know they're not a playoff game. I know to the average ESPN analyst it's just going to be a regular season. No, this is your LeBron to Cleveland game. Nothing's ever going to be LeBron to Cleveland, man. Look, that game, I thought somebody was actually going to get hurt, and that was wild. But this is your time, Luka. You want to go prove them wrong, show them what you can do, be that guy. This is HardFoul Radio, Hour 2, starting next. Hour 2 of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, everyone that's been here, everyone that's showing support. Appreciate you to all 551 of you that are subscribed. Let's keep getting those numbers up. So, I wanted to do, and I put it in the description as the debut of, everybody knows that's talked to me, my affiliation for the Suits franchise, and Suits LA is coming back, or just started. So, I want to do something similar to how we have the QB bar for NFL. I want to do something for players in the NBA type bar. But I wanted to do it in a more interesting way. Meaning, with quarterbacks, it's a little more fun because football is a little more volatile in terms of week to week. Guys can go on hot streaks. You know, we just saw Sam Darnold the season he had. In the NBA, it's a little harder to do it, especially when you have a guy like Jokic who just night in, night out. Even though some of those assists look kind of funny on replay, he's just putting up such better numbers, and he's just demonstrably better than everyone that it almost feels not genuine. And then I want to do power rankings. I do power rankings on Wednesdays. Gives me 24 hours to sit there and go. I'm sorry, flip-flopping these. Power rankings normally come on Tuesdays, and bar comes on Wednesdays. But even in the NBA with power rankings, it's kind of like, again, we know who the top-end teams are, and they don't change nearly as frequent to where power rankings are quite as satisfying in the NBA as they are the NFL. So what I wanted to do, and I'm going to figure out a better way to incorporate this. So this is kind of me fleshing out ideas live, right? What I want to do is I want to take a story a week, whatever is the top story. And I'm talking about an actual story. And we're going to have some NBA story time. Meaning I want to break down, for example, Anthony Edwards, the going from Georgia to, again, same draft, Paolo Banchero. And Paolo Banchero's gotten his team to the playoffs multiple times. And Ant is a clear superstar in terms of status. But Paulo's arguably, if you look at just the numbers, I know he was hurt. You could make an argument is almost just as good, if not even a little bit better. But I want to have true stories encapsulating players with that in their career, team, certain timeline. And I know how I want to start this. Because I've been fascinated. Maybe the most fascinating player to me in the entire NBA, and I just don't think he's getting enough love, is Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is, first off, I need you all to understand this. Cade Cunningham was drafted to the Pistons. The Pistons have not been a great franchise since Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace. They haven't been a good franchise since Blake Griffin. This is a franchise that has been in disarray. This is a franchise that has had no clear direction. And Cade Cunningham gets there. And yes, you got your first 2 years. All right, it's a struggle, but you see clear progress. You see clear improvement. And now, what actual great players do, and I'm going to get into, again, I'm going to get into this more. This is kind of some live fleshing out, so just bear with me. We're going to have Will on here in a second. What great players actually do. They come in the league, they showcase talent. He did that. Check. Then year 2, they show progress. He did that. Check. And then the next thing they do is they improve the team. You see winning. You see more consistency. Everyone's getting better. The easiest example of this, look at obvious LeBron, Michael, come in the league, immediately they can score, do all this crazy stuff. Year 2, Michael unfortunately broke his leg, but you see the improvement of the team. LeBron, same thing, no injury, but you see the improvement, and then you start to see winning, and you see consistent winning. Cade, the Pistons were a dumpster fire, a outright dumpster fire. Look at where they are now. They are now setting, a franchise has been at it for a long time. When you're setting stuff in 2025, when all your first since, and it's all from the 2000s, like you just went a whole decade of not being relevant. Broncos fan, I know the feeling. And you're setting all this stuff that the Pistons haven't done since 08, 09, 2010. They're on a 7-game win streak, or 8-game win streak now, I even believe. Like, Cade Cunningham deserves that. And I don't think the national media gives that enough to him. I don't follow specifically Detroit media, so maybe they're better job at giving him the attention and respect that he deserves. But we are going to start bringing some of these. I'm going to figure out a better story for it because, again, I don't feel like power rankings or player rankings in the NBA quite have the same effect. But I would love to start like the actual stories that are worth talking about for the NBA specifically. I would love to do it. And then we might still throw in on Wednesdays like a power rankings or player rankings type stuff. But I want to start highlighting some of these lesser known stories or stories I just don't feel like are getting enough recognition. And so Cade Cunningham, with that, we are starting with you, and that will be next Tuesday. So looking forward to that. And with that, we are joined, as always, by Will, is in the building, standing a nice. It's Tuesday. What's tonight? Today we stand a nice 6'4", 235, feeling good about life. We got the Red Sox hat on, ready for baseball season.
Ecstatic.
Oh, man. So as we normally do, I start out the show off. I'm going to let you decide if you think I'm crazy or not. So Chris Finch yesterday come out and says, big game, Timberwolves, Thunder, and basically says, yo, OKC's doing a bunch of flopping. They commit a lot of fouls and complain about the way SGA plays, et cetera, et cetera. And we've heard that before, and we know superstars get preferential treatment. I make the argument at the beginning of the show that fans don't really care so much who gets the call, but it's the fact of the no call. So I think when you have someone like SGA on that team who plays similar to James Harden or Luka or some of these other guys, but when you also have Lou Dort playing on the same team and it feels like he's damn near running people over, and yeah, you can't put two hands on Shy, it's like I think that's where the actual issue is. It's not so much that SGA is he gets the free throw line the second most of any player in the league besides Giannis. I think it's the fact that they can play this unique set of physical defense that other teams just aren't allowed to play.
Yep. I agree.
Like, because I used to always think, because it's crazy too, because Jokic doesn't shoot that many free throws, even though he's a big man. And yet SGA, like Giannis, it makes sense. I think Giannis has averages most in the league. He's a little above 11, but that kind of makes sense with the way he plays. SGA is at 8.8. But I also do think it's weird, and I want your opinion on this. OKC, and this is what the defenders will say, they shoot the second least free throws as a team. Like SGA damn near takes 50% of their free throws as a team. What is your thought on just like that style of play, the issues with like, oh, you're allowed to play defense one way, but the other team's not allowed to play defense on your guys? What are you feeling?
I mean, it's tricky. Like, I mean, as far as how I feel about it, I mean, we've talked about, like, I guess the James Hardens, the Lukas, like, you know, me and you have both talked about kind of how we feel about that style of play in general. But it's also like, I mean, James Harden has been going on for damn near 10 years. Like, you kind of know what to expect. Like, so it's kind of like one of those things to where, like, even if you don't agree with it, you know the way the game is called these days. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, and I mean, and you know, sometimes it requires your star player to be, you know, the star player on the opposite team needs to be more aggressive to kind of force the ref's hand. And I mean, even, you know, and he is, you know, one of the best guards when it comes to attacking the basket. But I think he also, and I don't know where, I mean, he takes a lot of threes also. And I mean, his 3-point percentage is up there. I think last time when I looked a few weeks ago, it might have been close to like 40%. So
he's having a career year from three.
Yeah, so he is shooting the three ball really good. But if you're not attacking the same way Shea is attacking, to kind of force their hand on the other end of the ball, it's hard to kind of complain about it, because it's like, if he gonna get those calls, you being Anthony Edwards, you need to force them to make those calls on the other end.
No, it's valid. Speaking of Anthony Edwards, just kind of popped in my head. I think I understand, and this is not very sports centric, but so Anthony Edwards asked all throughout All-Star Weekend, like, do you think you could be the guy, like the face of the league guy? And I know you and I have talked about it, and Tony have talked about like, oh yeah, he should be the guy the NBA wants to promote. I also know a little about Ant Edwards, and we all do, his personal life and the way that he maybe talks or handles himself in certain situations. And I'm like, okay, I get it. If I'm him, I maybe don't want to be the face of the league and be like on every single sports show every single morning. He's what, 24, 23, 24? And he's doing stuff, he's doing regular young guy shit. And so that's not exactly something you want, going like having Shannon and Stephen A going back and forth kind of deal. So I'll ask you, do you get it why he doesn't want to be the face of the league, or do you still kind of wish, like, secretly, like, man, like, yeah, I get it, but like, fuck that shit. We still need you the perfect person to elevate to that spot.
No, I get it. I definitely get it. Like, I mean, aside from being the talking point of all the sports shows and all of that, it's like it does come with a responsibility. And I mean, of course, no matter what, you represent the NBA. That goes for every player that's in the league. But when you the face of the league, like everything is going to be highlighted. And I mean, LeBron is a tough act to follow. Steph Curry is a tough act to follow as far as being the face of the league, not having no like smut on their name outside of basketball.
Yeah.
So I get it from that perspective, but I also think, like, unfortunately for Anthony Edwards, it ain't really his choice. like you don't come in saying I want to be the face of the league. That's just kind of what happens. Like, it's so it's not something you can really pick and choose. So now you either need to embrace it, or I can't remember who I heard say it, but it's kind of like you need them, but it's like you can't like say you don't want to be that, but then also take up all the commercials. You want to be in all the commercials. You got one of the best up and coming shoes and all of that stuff. And not saying that that's like the people who you are in business with, it benefits them for you to be the face of the league. So Adidas, that benefits Adidas. The Sprite commercials or whoever you're doing commercials for, that you being the face of the league benefits them. And I mean, it benefits you too, of course, financially, but I just don't. I mean, and I'm sure at some point he's gonna realize like it's probably not his choice, unless you're gonna go completely to being just. I mean, almost like how Kevin Durant was. You just gonna play basketball and that's it. But it's like if you want to be vocal and you want to do all those things, I don't think like Kevin Durant. And everybody always says like, oh, Kevin Durant didn't have to do it. It's like it wasn't Kevin Durant's choice. Like LeBron James was in the league.
Facts.
Like Kevin Durant didn't have a choice on whether he would or wouldn't be the face of the league because LeBron James and Steph Curry were there.
No, that's super valid. And that's actually so Ant and KD obviously over the Olympics there. Like Ant basically came out and said like you can't get him to say nothing negative about KD. Like that's his guy. Mm-hmm. That's the dude he models his game after. And so it makes sense. It was like KD does have that. If in the hypothetical world where LeBron doesn't exist, KD is obviously that great where he would have been in consideration. But KD doesn't have that kind of personality or that kind of style. Like, and there's only been truthfully, and I think people get messed up, there's like 8 faces of the league ever. Like, you go all the way back, you want to go Bill Russell, Wilt, fine. You got, when it really became dominant was like Magic, Bird, obviously Michael. Then you damn near go Michael to Shaq. Like, as great as Hakeem was in the 90s, like Hakeem was never looked at as the face of the league. And then, Shaq, then however you want to split it up, Kobe to LeBron to Steph's kind of in there. It's him and Bron kind of going back and forth. But so face of the league, there's just not that many of them.
No, it's not. And I mean, and that don't take away, like, sometimes you could be the face of the league and not be the best player in the league. Like, you can, if you're you might be a top 3 player in the league. You can be the face of the league. That, like, I mean, and there's a lot of people who want to argue that there was a point KD was the best player in the league, but he was never the face of the league.
No, 1,000%.
It's a point where a lot of people say Giannis is the best player in the league, or Jokic. I mean, a lot of people have been arguing him being the best player in the league over the last 3 years or so, and he isn't the face of the league. Like, so that don't mean you got to be the best player in the league, but you got to be top 5, maybe top 3, and you need to be as marketable as they come.
No, it's a fact. There's, again, Tim Duncan was never in consideration for face of the league. And there's multiple points in his career you could argue like, yeah, Tim Duncan's the best player in the game. He just didn't talk. And because we're in San Antonio, wasn't a big market, all that kind of stuff adds up into it. Luka plays the Mavs tonight. I'm not, obviously, we guys kind of talk about this, I'm not the biggest Luka guy. I do think Luka is going for damn near 50. Like, I think there is going to be, if you are going to try to, because they basically, when they kicked you out, they said, look, out of shape, not as competitive as we want. And I argued yesterday, I'm like, look, I think there is an argument that if you truly don't think, as crazy it looks to the outside world, like Luka is that guy, because if you're Dallas, your real competition is OKC, because you know they're great now and they're going to be great going forward. It's the Celtics. They're great now. They're going to be great going forward. And then pick your choice on who you think is going to be the next team. Maybe it's Houston's going to turn into that, but one of these younger teams, because that's Luka's actual timeline. His timeline's not lined up with Giannis or lined up with Jokic. And so I could understand that. I also do think, though, now as we're a few weeks removed.
Well, real quick, I want to say, like, I would take under 40 on that.
Oh, you would take under 40?
1,000%. Not saying I think he's gonna have a good game, but I think it's just gonna be a game. Like, I don't think
nothing super crazy.
Yeah. So I would take under 40.
I think he's gonna try to shoot them out the building. I would say, like,
I think he might try to shoot them out the building. He said he might shoot them out the game.
That first quarter is going to be telling, because I think he's going to want to play all 12 of the first quarter and try to get, like, if there was ever he's trying to get 20 this quarter or trying to get even more than that, like, this would be
you want to start off hot so you can coast the rest of the game. You ain't got to try to get your numbers up later.
Yeah. But I do think Dallas is in, like, probably the toughest position. This is why I could defend you trading Luka. I just can't ever defend, like, Anthony Davis and one pick being the return, because you got to deal with dude for 10 plus years theoretically. And you did all of the quote unquote, like, not supposed to, like, oh, if you trade a star player, like, trade him out of the division or trade him out of conference. Like, you trade him to the Mavericks that's in the trade him to the Lakers that's in the conference. Theoretically, in 2 or 3 years, if Kyrie's not who he is and AD is older and he still has injury issues, like, this dude could be stopping you, or even if you were turning into a great team, Luka and the Lakers could be stopping you from potentially getting to titles. Like, they could be knocking down the playoffs.
I think, but I mean, and this is just me, and I think, and we don't know when LeBron is going to retire or anything like that, but say LeBron decided this was his last year.
Mm-hmm.
What does that make the Lakers?
A worse version of Dallas. Whatever people,
like, a little worse or a lot worse. Because we know, and of course, like, Anthony Davis has health concerns, but we know he ain't retiring.
In my opinion, it would be, so the Lakers are going to be as good as you think Austin Reeves is. Now, I think Austin Reeves is fine as when he's, like, your third, and some nights your fourth option.
Is a great third option. I think as soon as you try to put him in a position to have to do more than be a third option, that's what's going to be a struggle. When you can put the third best defender on Austin Reeves, I think he'll be good. I think if you're in a situation where, like, if the Lakers are playing the Celtics, and I don't know the numbers against, like, where they have 3-4 guys who can defend out on the floor at once, like, I don't know what his stats are against Boston, of course, but, like, I don't see that being a thing.
No,
Shout out to Austin Reeves. But LeBron always, LeBron always have, like, one of those players who ain't really supposed to be that good, but they play, they better than what they are. And I felt the same way about Alex Caruso, and I like Caruso a lot. I think Caruso is a pretty good two-way player, a better defender than he is, on offense.
No, 1,000%.
But that's kind of, but, like, even I think I seen Gil's Arena, they were having a debate on who was better between Austin Reeves and Bradley Beal.
See, I think
Austin Reeves is. I think without LeBron James being a Laker, I don't know if Austin Reeves averages the points that he averages.
That's like, where I think it gets out of hand.
I can see Bradley Beal doing what Austin Reeves does before I can see Austin Reeves doing what Bradley Beal did with the Wizards, averaging 30. Didn't he win a scoring title?
I don't remember if he won. I remember he did over 30. I don't remember if he won the scoring title.
I can't remember if he won a scoring title that year, but he was over 30. Like, and I don't see, drop him on.
Can't do that.
Wherever, whatever team you want to drop him, whoever the worst team in the league is, I don't see him doing that.
No, 1,000%.
And he's one of those players that's like, he's great for the Lakers, like, but I don't know if he would be the same player anywhere else. And, it's a lot of players people have those conversations about, so.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a bad thing, like, that you in a system that works for you. That's not a negative.
No, and those are, again, he's the easiest example to go to, but it's like,
Draymond.
Draymond's entire career. Like, we understand, like, yeah, you gonna be in the Hall of Fame, you're a 4-time champ, like, you deserve all that shit. We also all firmly believe if he was on one of the 29 other teams, he's not Draymond. He don't have all the ads, he don't have the podcast. He was turned into a star because of team success.
But we also don't know. I mean, and we also don't know, like, I think a lot of times we probably underestimate players' abilities to adapt, like, because, most of the times these players are coming from being like the best players on their team at some point, like, whether it was college or whatever the case is. So it's like, it's really more of a testament to these guys that are great role players, though, to be able to maybe come in and adjust, like,
after being like the guy and then
after being the guy. And I think that's the problem. Even when you see a lot of these guys come in who were looked at as they were supposed to be stars, like that year when RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, and Zion all came in, and I don't even know where Cam Reddish plays at now. And
I think he's damn near out the league around like.
But that's what I mean, like, because everybody can't adapt and adjust to being a role player. So or like even a guy like Patrick Beverly, who came, he coming up, especially, just in Chicago and everything, one of the best players from the city, coming up around the time Derrick Rose was coming up and all of that. And then you get to the league, like, you dropping 40, 50 points, and you get to the league and they look at you as just a defender, and being able to adapt to that, it's a testament to the player. So,
No, 1,000%. That's valid. That's a good point. That doesn't get, and I know myself, like, that doesn't get brought up enough. That ability, you come from a position
like, if you look at most of these like some of these role players, and probably go back at some point, they were the best player on their team. They probably they might have been averaging 20 plus in college, and now they 6-7 points a game, and they 3-and-D guys now.
Tyson Chandler, to like kind of an older player, but Tyson Chandler, when he came out of high school, averaged 50 points his senior year. And like, you would never look at Tyson Chandler. He was just a lob
threat. When he got to the league, he was a lob threat and a defender, like a rim protector, lob threat and a rim protector.
Yeah, like that's.
That adjustment's crazy. And I think the adjustment for a lot of big men probably come easier when you always been a big man versus like
being like a
guards and stuff like that. And then, I think we might have talked about it on here before, but I know, like, a lot of times, like, what I realized, like, even when I was in school and stuff, like, you had, for my high school, our center, the guy who played center for our high school might have been 6'7", 6'6".
Yeah.
And it's like, when you go to college, like, you need to be a forward or a shooting guard or something, but your whole life they've been putting you in the post and, telling you got to be a big man. So now when you get to college, because you've always been the tallest player, you don't have any type of guard skills.
Yeah.
So, and I know we got sidetracked, but.
No, that's good. I like those kind of convos. But my next question I was going to follow up with is, my last question here is, so Channing Frye had a rant yesterday, and it was about the nostalgia of the NBA. And he was based on about, like, look, we're not even comparing dudes no more to like who their contemporaries or like enjoying this era. We're just, every conversation is going like, obviously with LeBron, it goes back to Michael. With KD is getting ranked now, Steph's getting ranked. Like, okay, where are you in, like, not your contemporaries? Where are you in like the top 10, top 20 list? And he's like, that's taking the fun out of the NBA for this era specifically. And I kind of agree with them, but I do think there is a two-way street as far as enjoying the game. That it's like the 3-point thing. Yes, I'm not saying that like missing a mid-range shot looks any better than missing a 3-point shot. But I do think, even though there is more styles of play than we probably give credit to, I do feel like there's way less style of players, because the game has been solved so much that, if you are, like you just said, a 3-and-D guy, I'm not going to really progress you much more than that. If you could play defense and you can stand in the corner, catch passes, shoot, or you can run back screens, like, that's all I'm really going to ever ask you to do. I'm not going to have you, like, we have way less slashers. We have way less combo guards. Like, there's dudes just get good at these one or two things, and that's pretty much all they do.
I don't even know. Is a slasher in the league today still a thing? Like,
Giannis?
Like no, but I was gonna say, like, as far as like the younger players, and of course Giannis isn't old by any means yet, but I mean, he's been in the league for a while. But like, even you may even call it Jimmy Butler like a slash, like kind of a slashing type of player. But as far as like these new up and coming players, that's not
It was Ant.
It ain't really a thing. What you say?
I said it was Ant, but even Ant the last year and a half has taken a lot more threes than he used to.
Mm-hmm. But even still, I mean, and you know, part of that is being, you know, I mean, I guess him being on the ball as much as he is and everything. And I mean, just the game as a whole. But yeah, when you think about all of that, it's not really a thing. But even to that point, so what RJ was saying, and you can, I guess, I want to make sure I interpreted it correctly.
What's the
So
line of nostalgia, I guess? Like, what is the point of like romanticizing what we watched because we thought that was basketball versus going, okay, this is different, but I'm not going to call all different better kind of deal. Like, where's that line of like what's fair in terms of nostalgia?
And I agree. I do agree with that. Like, different isn't always better. And I think like, and I know we've had the conversation before though. You can only rank people up against who they played against. Like, the reason the game is where it's at, and you talk about these players being more skilled. Like, the reason they're more skilled is because of what the players in the past did. Like, they had to give you the template to be able to add.
Yeah.
So, like, when you're talking about, like, Kyrie Irving has the best handles ever, like, we can say that today, but that may not be the case in 5 years and 10 years because he's the template now, and now you're going to have somebody that can add to what he did, like, and the rules are going to change even more. So it's like, but then, so it's like at that point, you can't really compare the players of the past because he wouldn't be here without that. That's just the evolution. That's evolution, period. And
not facts.
You can only compare these guys against who they played against. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, Kobe would have beaten Mike in his prime or something like that if that's how you feel, but that's only because he was able to watch Michael Jordan and add to what he took from Michael Jordan. Like, Michael Jordan didn't watch Kobe and be able to add to his moves or something like that. So it's
1,000%.
You know, it's just the evolution.
No, that's valid.
Like,
again,
if I can watch your whole career and mimic everything you do and then say, let me add these X amount of things, like, you should be better than me. Or like some people should be able to be like, I gave you the blueprint. Like, I gave you all the tools, and all you got to do is say, okay, well, let me go add a few more.
No, 1,000%. That was what was made it's what made the beginning of the Warriors, I think, really fun, is because you could see, and shout out to Popovich, health concerns, not sure if he was coming back, but you saw when that early variation of the Warriors, you saw what the Spurs were doing, but it was with a much younger team. It was with obviously Steph and Clay revolutionized shooting, being on the same team together. You got to see that. So you got to see that wasn't just nostalgia going like, man, I just missed the way the Spurs played. No, they took some of that, added onto it, brought in some new concepts, and they took over the league.
It was like a merge of the Spurs and the Suns. Like, when you talk about that ball movement of the Spurs and then that fast pace of the Suns, like, you know, from that 7 seconds or less era. So it's like, to me, that was like a marriage of that. And yeah, I mean, you know, it was like, I mean, like they said before, it was jump shooting teams couldn't win a title. Now every team is a jump shooting team.
Yeah. And that's where I think, like, they're kind of my example of where I think nostalgia's got to, like, some of it's nostalgia and some of it's like, no, I can tell the difference is that team took what the Spurs did, revolutionized it. There is now some teams who all they can do is we can run pick and roll. It's going to pass. Some teams literally never get the ball, like, past the free throw line on offense for like several possessions in a row. And it's just like, I know we can't, but it feels like and looks like, oh, I can get 4 dudes together. Shit, we can go do this. We can all
it's not a real like half court game anymore.
Yeah. And so,
like, you really only see it become a half court game, like, in close games at the end of games. Like, then, you know, they kind of, that's when teams really start paying attention to shot selection and things like that. But like, for the first 3 quarters,
it's pickup. It's pickup. And it's
1,000%. I don't even know. I can only imagine what these teams' playbooks look like these days. Like, probably thin as shit.
Cardio and be ready to shoot. Like,
yeah,
that's
like everything these days is shoot, drive and kick, pick and pop.
Yeah, no, it's infuriating. And my team's not even great, so like they're not the best example, but it was infuriating, like seeing so many possessions in a row. This is where I had issues with CJ. Is there so many possessions where it's like ball doesn't cross free throw line, and you just like kind of passing on the 3-point line, shoot up a three. And I'm like, you got Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson are your two best players who are specifically at their best free throw line and down. I'm like, again, not comparing the caliber of player, but just for the example, like the Mavericks never tried to run that fast of an offense when Dirk was their best player, because their best offense was get Dirk the ball mid post and let him go to work. Melo's a perfect example. Melo's Nuggets teams, yeah, they always had pace and they were trying to be fast, but their best offense was still, we missed a couple shots in transition. All right, let's slow it down, get Melo the ball, low block, let him go to work. Like even that variation in the game. And there's a lot of that doesn't happen. And again, I don't consider that.
I think, but all of that is a result of the 3-point shooting. Because like if I miss 2 shots and they hit 3 threes,
that's
now it's like, I mean, and we talked about the casino before, like you losing is like you trying to get your money back. Like you ain't gonna just walk away and say, okay, let me slow it down and get an easy bucket in the post. You trying to get back what you lost. Like I need these threes back.
Nah, 1,000%. Oh man, appreciate you as always. We're gonna catch you Sunday at group chat, and then we'll catch you back here next Tuesday. Appreciate it, bro.
No problem, man.
And we're here to close it out. Appreciate Will as always chopping in. I want to reiterate the point, and I really liked when he brought it up, is that guys, we always talk about adapting, and a lot of life is adapting, and a lot of sports is adapting. But the guys that have to adapt from being the best player on their high school team or the best player on their college team, adapting down to where, you might have been scoring 30 points in high school, 40 points in high school, and then you're scoring 20 plus in college, and you get in the NBA and you're a 5-6 point a game guy who they're expecting to play defense. And a lot of, yes, star players win titles, talent wins titles, but when you are strapped in a way where, let's take the Nuggets, for example. The Nuggets have a clear big four, right? Like Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and then obviously Jokic. So the other 4 to 5 guys who are getting rotation time, Christian Braun, the other guys off the bench, they were scoring. They were probably the best player on their AAU team, probably the best player in their high school team, one of the best players on their college team. And now they have to have a role that they understand, look, this team is going to be as successful as we can make it at this low end. In baseball, this happens a lot. Guys who are in that 8-9 hole, were one of the best hitters growing up, one of the best hitters in their hometown, one of the best players on their college team, and now they're an 8-hole hitter for the New York Mets. Well, the Mets lineup is kind of stacked, but you get what I mean. The ability to then go, okay, I'm going to bunt, I'm going to take some extra pitches, I'm going to, try to get the pitcher deeper into the count because that's better for the team. That's sometimes lost and only talked about enough, and maybe that sounds too simple or too easy, but again, appreciate Will hopping on. Love the point. Tomorrow, a little preview. I don't know if I'm going to lead with it, but Kenyon Martin said something really interesting on Gil's Arena, did a live show, and he talked about just the lack of denial in the NBA on defense anymore, where, yeah, there's still good defenders, there's still good wing defenders, good post defenders, all that, shot blockers, but he's like, when he was on the Nuggets, he's like, Dante Jones, your job was to deny Kobe Bryant getting the basketball. His job was to deny Kenyon Martin. His job was to deny Tim Duncan getting the basketball. Because you can't stop these truly great players, these truly transcendent guys who can get 30 a night, can get even more than that. So you have to sit there and try to help deny and then rely on your teammates. If you're denying because you're fronting, Tim Duncan from getting in the low post, that you have teammates who are able to play the backside if they try to throw over your head. Like, that's team defense. And that's maybe a little more too sports nerdy talk to fully lead off the show with. But I did think that was interesting that, yeah, denial is damn near a lost art. This is why guys like Luka, guys like Harden, guys like Kyrie, it's so hard to deal with them, is because once they get the ball in their hands, most all-time great scorers, most guys who are great offensively, it's really impossible to stop them. It's really hard to slow them down, and you're just hoping for the best results. But if you actually deny a player the ball, if you actually deny a guy a chance to make a play, you put yourself in a much better position from a team standpoint and a defensive standpoint. So, again, that'd be a little too sports nerdy, like too in-depth in terms of the X's and O's of basketball. I did also like Will's point about, like, what are teams running as far as playbooks? Because I've watched a lot of games where it ain't that great. But with that being said, we've reached an hour and a half is about as max I can go right now with my current schedule. But appreciate you guys, as always. We are at 551. Let's get that subscriber number up. Appreciate you. Don't forget, as always, to go check out other shows we have here at HardFoul Network. Go check